stop and ask yourself this question: what percentage of my day am I calm, at peace, and happy? Perhaps close your eyes when you do this, connect with your heart space, and see what answer you get. And if you'd like to up that percentage, perhaps it's time to take some reflective time to figure out how we can do that. That's what today's journal prompt is all about: protecting and figuring out how to make the best of your inner peace. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Julie from J&B Living, and on this channel I share thoughts and ideas about how we can live more mindfully, intentionally, to find more balance in our lives and find more happiness as a result. So, as I alluded to here earlier, today's journal prompt is all about protecting your inner peace. And to do that, we obviously have to know what disturbs it. And so that is the meat of today's journal prompt. When you do take the time to answer this prompt, you might want to just put your hands on your heart space and start thinking about your heart, where your heart resides, just putting your full attention there, and intend that the answers that you receive come from your heart space. And what this could do is help to answer more from the heart, but in doing so, it may actually help get you more out of the thinking mode of your head and connecting more with your inner soul. So to start with, what you're going to do is write down everything that comes to your mind without stopping to consider what's popping up, and then you can step back and look at what you've written. But the journal prompt to start out with is: what prevents my inner peace? What prevents my inner peace? Now, if you'd like, you can go ahead and turn off the video, pause it, and then come back to me for the next part of this journaling and some insights from me as well. So I hope you had a lot of insightful answers that came up to you to that question when you just let the answers flow from your heart. And the next thing that we want to do with those, though, we're going to have one further journal prompt question, and that is: what changes can I make in my life to stop these situations from happening? Or what changes can I make in my life to alter the things that you wrote down that are preventing you from your inner peace? So I'll share with you some of the things that I came up with as I answered this question. So the first one that I wrote down, the first two that I wrote down, is arguments with my husband, Kurt, and also Kurt's mood and frustration. And so I'm a little embarrassed to actually recognize that his mood impacts mine. But at the same point, I know that probably a lot of us have this issue where someone else's moods, frustrations have an impact on us. And I think that, when I think about what I can do differently or what I can change in my life that helps with that, I think the biggest thing for me is remembering that I have a choice about how I choose to feel and to react. And I know sometimes that's difficult and a little bit more challenging to put into action than it is to just think about, but I do know it's possible. It does take some inner discipline and a little extra attention, a recognition that you are your own being, and that I think for me, one of the best ways is to stand back and appreciate that person, appreciate what it is they're going through. And so by doing this, you are putting the ball in their court in terms of that, whatever that mood or that frustration is. And so then you're kind of taking it out of your space by doing that. So you're just showing appreciation for what it is they're going through, perhaps some compassion. And I think by shifting into this mood or this perspective of compassion and appreciation, it helps you shift away from taking that on yourself, the feelings that and the mood that they have. So you're creating your own mood of appreciation and compassion. So I actually wrote down quite a few things here, and I won't go through all of them with you, but I thought I'd share with you the ones that I think might be ones that many people can relate to. So the next one that I wrote down, and it's really, the next two are similar. I wrote down cluttered spaces and unclean home spaces. The more that I have been on a path towards, I don't know whether I can call it minimalism. I think I'm getting used to that idea because I'm finding more and more that I crave less and less. But the more that I do that, the more that I find when I do have a very clean, simplistic, uncluttered space, I can really feel the difference in that. And that does bring me a greater sense of peace for sure. So I have a few others here, but the last one that I'll share with you here today is when I have a lack of balance in my life. I definitely have a tendency, for having done this for many, many years, just working too much. And even now, owning my own business, there's always more to be accomplished in a day than I can possibly get done. And in some ways, it even makes it a little bit harder because I really enjoy the work that I do now, and I'm excited about it. And so finding boundaries for myself to make sure that I create the balance I need in my life can be challenging, but that is one of the things that I wrote down, is setting a time boundary for the evenings, because that's one of the most challenging times for me as we continue to keep working into the evening. The other one that continues to be something that I can do to help create balance, it keeps coming up again and again for me, is to set realistic goals for the day. I have a tendency to be overly optimistic, and so that's something I'm working on. Then the next thing I wrote down for helping to create balance was to actually make plans to do certain things on the weekend so that it's not all work or errands or things that don't bring me the balance and the joy that I need. So just as I do during the week, and set okay, here's these 3 things that I'm going to try to accomplish today, my top 3 things. I think that doing that on the weekend as well, but from a different perspective of, here's the top 3 things that I'm going to do that will bring me joy and that are fun and will light up my heart. I had written down, one of the things that prevent my inner peace is worry and unresolved issues. So this is a tough one. This is one where, depending on what you're working on and what you're worried about, I think the first question you have to ask yourself is this something that's within my control? And if it is something that's within your control, oftentimes making a plan and then going ahead and taking some steps, if there's a few things that you can do right away, that tends to be helpful. If it's not things you can do right away, even just having a plan sometimes can be really helpful on how you can address whatever it is that you're concerned about. And just knowing that you're being proactive and doing something and moving in a direction sometimes can be really helpful. But if it's something that's outside of your control, well, what do you do then? I think that there's a couple things. The first is to get a sense of how much this is truly impacting you. And sometimes reflecting on a span of time can be really helpful with respect to this. So if you think about the issue or what you're concerned about and ask yourself the question, am I still going to be concerned about this 5 years from now? And if the answer is still yes, well, what about 10 years from now? Will this still be a concern to me? 25 years from now? 50 years from now? And sometimes, that perspective, that in the long run, maybe it's not quite as important or terrible as it feels right now, can be helpful. The second thing that you can do is to shift here's a little ant crawling on me. That's a hazard, I guess, of being outside and videoing these outside. The second thing that you can do is to try to shift your attention in some way, shape, or form. And usually I find that first recognizing that you're thinking about this again, you're worrying about this again, and then being intentional with shifting your mind. So you're really practicing controlling your mind, which, can be challenging, but with practice, it is something that can be done. So, doing a hobby, reading a book, taking a walk, doing something that's going to focus your attention somewhere else deliberately. I know, worry is something that is a challenge for all of us. We all have things that we're worried and concerned about. And so, finding your own ways of coping with worry can be really useful to have some tools in your toolbox to be able to help yourself in this way. So actually I have a number of blogs that may be helpful if you would like to read something further, that trying to find more helpful suggestions on addressing worry in your life. So you can visit my website at www.jmbliving.com to find out and see more articles that might be helpful to you as well if this is something that you're challenged with right now. So I hope that you have found some little nuggets of wisdom or some ideas for yourself today. If you haven't already, make sure that you take the time to not only have answered the first journal prompt question and what prevents your peace, but also to connect back with your heart and find ways and ideas on what you can do differently in your life to protect your peace. That's the other issue with being outside. We get all kinds of noise. So the plane going, the cars driving by. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, really brainstorming and letting answers flow to paper on what you can do differently in your life to help yourself protect your own inner peace. And by just doing this exercise and bringing these things to your attention, this is the wonderful thing about journaling, is we take the time, and these answers are all right here within us, but when we take the time to let them flow out onto paper, it's amazing some of the insights that come to the surface that are already there, but we just really didn't pay attention to them before. So bringing attention to them and then following through on a plan for action can really end up making your life flow more easily, bringing you more joy and happiness on a daily basis. So that's all for this week. I hope that you'll join me back here again for the next one. And in the meantime, I hope you have a most wonderful week. Hopefully you will find some time to Get outside, do something that you enjoy, and have an amazing week for yourself. Bye till next time.